All right, one of the interesting developments in the last couple of years is this notion of asking people for their passwords as a condition of employment, continued employment, prospective employment. What's interesting about it is that in most of the cases that, and we did a little bit of confirming this morning, state of Maryland, as of May 2nd, last week, has forbidden employers from asking for your passwords. What this means, and let me back up a little bit. There's been a surge over the last year or so of employers requiring your social networking because they want to see what you're doing. They want to look at those Anne of Green Gables pictures and the pictures from Cinco de Mayo, et cetera, or make sure that you're not that type of person who would do that sort of thing in your personal life. It's almost like having a morals clause in your contract, and those aren't necessarily that enforceable either.
Well, let me add to that. So I would imagine that the reason they're doing that may have something to do with them wanting to determine what kind of a person you are, but also very specifically what kind of a representative you are of the company in the future. Yeah. Should you have a role that requires that or not? If you say you work at XYZ company and you are online and you're wearing Anne of Green Gables wigs, what does that mean to our brand as a company? Now, right. I can understand wanting to be able to control that down. But what we're learning is that those requests are unreasonable and in Maryland now illegal. Illegal.
And there's at least 8 other states that have legislation pending or making its way through the process, as well as at the federal level in the U.S. Mm-hmm. And so the interesting thing that we looked at an article on Information Week that talked about this and a couple of other articles. There was a Boston Globe article that talked about it. And what I thought was amazing was that in this economy, people are still willing to say, I'd never give up my username and password. I don't need the job that much. That's an incredible invasion of privacy. Why don't you just ask for the keys to my house while I'm at work and go rifle through my sock drawers? And I think that's good, actually. I'm not a fan, and I certainly wouldn't work any place that required that. But at the same time, it raises an interesting question about, think through the legal aspects of this. If somebody's posted stuff on Facebook and they've locked it down so that only their friends can see it, and you're opposing counsel, how do you get at that stuff? And so we're starting to see some interesting case law and some interesting ethics issues being raised by the various bars around, is it ethical, or under what circumstances is it ethical for a judge to friend a party or opposing counsel to friend a party? Should we have a special master just for the express purpose of friending a party to see what they're saying on social media or follow them on Twitter or what have you? What about those usernames and passwords? Can we compel it? The case law is very, very fluid right now, and I think that's probably an understatement, as different courts have different technical understandings of the nuances of friending and friends of friends and contacts, and is following on Twitter the same thing as friending somebody on Facebook, and for certain values of it, it is and it isn't. So I would suggest that those of us who are information management professionals, and that's probably most of you, and especially those of you who are in the legal side of things, this is going to be a very closely watched area for the next couple of years as we try and sort out where are those boundaries and where are those borders.
And meanwhile, the way to deal with that or get around it and not ask unreasonable things of our employees or potential employees is to have a very, very clear policy on the usage of social media, whether it's for private communication or public communication. I mean, really, that's where the concern comes down, right? How is this going to reflect on our company? How can we control information that could negatively impact us financially or performance-wise? So making it very clear what the policy is, based on what the objectives you as an organization have for your employees using or not using social media, and we'll get to that in a little bit. That is one way. While even in Maryland you can't ask for a password, you can make it very, very clear that what you post and how you post has a very specific consequence to it. Once it's out there, it doesn't mean you can take it back. Certainly you can't, even if you had their password.
Right. The internet doesn't forget. Mm-hmm. And I know most of you probably know that, but I think it bears repeating from time to time. All right, the next thing we want to look at, and this is another kind of hot area of the legal field right now, is authentication of social media.